Yeah. You weren't expecting that. Okay, are you happy to do that? If you come on down, that would be great. We are reading the parable of the rich fool. Come here. And it'll be on the screen. It'll be on the screen. Is that all right?
Someone in the crowd said to him, "Teacher, tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me." Jesus replied, "Man, who appointed me a judge or an arbiter between you?" Then he said to them, "Watch out. Be on your guard against all kinds of greed. Life does not consist in abundance of possessions." And he told them in this parable, "The ground of a certain rich man yielded an abundant harvest. He thought to himself, 'What shall I do? I have no place to store my crops.' Then he said, 'This is what I'll do. I will tear down my barns and build bigger ones, and there I will store my surplus grain. And I'll say to myself, you have plenty of grain laid up for many years. Take life easy, eat, drink, and be merry.' But God said to him, 'You fool, this very night life will be demanded from you. Then who will get what you have prepared for yourself? This is how it will be with whoever stores up things for themselves, but is not rich towards God.'"
This is the word of the Lord.
Thanks
be to God. Should we give Renee a round of applause? You were not expecting that, so well done, well done. And Ian is going to come and talk to us now. Thank you, Ian.
Thank you. Well done, Renee. This is what happens when you get confirmed, when you become an adult member of the church and you take your rightful place, you become more involved, and you do the reading at last minute, not always, but thank God. I want to talk today about the rich fool. But before I talk about the rich fool, I want to add to the testimonies very, very briefly that we've heard this morning. I want to thank God for all the women in the church. I really do want to thank God for all the women, all the sisters. And you know why? I was sleeping, and in my wake, I thought, we don't have too many men around the church, do we? That's one thing. But yesterday, I saw the sisters, the women. They were working so hard, pushing trolley, doing some heavyweight stuff that guys would normally do in other places. And the women are strong. The women are motivated. The women don't wait to say, "Hey, let the guys come and do this." They get on. They just rolled up their sleeves and they did it. And I was, in my wakeful moment, I was thinking, Lord, thank you. Because if the women weren't there yesterday, there would have been a bit of a problem, I have to say to you. There was quite a few, back and forth movements between the church and York Gardens yesterday on trolley, on carts, on hands, and everything. And I just really want to thank God for the women. You worked very, very hard. The men, of course, deserve thanks. But the women yesterday, they showed up big time. And I want to thank God for all of you. The rich fool. In 1976, ABBA released a song titled "Money, Money, Money. It's a Rich Man's World." Money, money, money. You guys know that song? Some of you know it. How many of you know that song? We're not going to sing it this morning. I see a few hands. Wow. Even Daisy knows that song. Money, money, money. Yes, it's a rich man's world. It's a song that talks about a woman who works very hard, but she can't just seem to get along. Things don't just come together. And so she dreams of hooking up with a wealthy man. And she says, all the things that I can do if I had a little money. You see, Jesus was the greatest storyteller. First slide. he used parables to share wonderful truths. And I know the children from Rock Solid have been talking about parables. I also know that the youths have been discussing something about the rich fool, this particular parable, something about money and abundance and about wealth. And of course, the adults, we read our Bibles, and here today we're looking at, this wonderful parable. And so Jesus used parables because people connected with the stories, and he was able to share some very important life truths. I guess I would never have said to a rich person that you are a fool. I would have thought that a rich person is wise. After all, they've made a lot of money. There must be some wisdom there. Try telling one of the 4 dragons in Dragon's Den, you're a fool. As a matter of fact, I listened to one of the episodes, or you might have heard that a few times. When an entrepreneur, a potential business person comes to them with a plan, maybe the plan looks so ridiculous and they're asking for, some 20% or 25% investment. Someone like Tuka would say, now don't take me for a fool. One of the dragons. Don't take me for a fool. You come here with a ridiculous plan and you're asking for so much money, and what do you think I am? So the dragons object to being called fools. They're not fools. But Jesus talks about the rich fool. And there's something here for us to learn. I think the point that Jesus is driving home in this parable is something about the fact that we need to be cautious. We need to be mindful about the dangers of abundance. Abundance. Plenty of these gold coins. Next slide, please. This rich man lived abundantly. See that table? It's overflowing with goodies. There's grapes, there's wine, there's some fruits in the background, and all sorts of stuff. He had plenty. He had so much wheat, and he decided, I don't even have enough places to store the wheat. And so what did I do? I'll be bigger bands, bigger bands. Are we going to have that song later? That video? Oh, I use bigger bands, yes. I just need a bigger bank account. I need a bigger vault. I've got so much money, I don't know where to keep them. I don't know where to store my goods. I don't know where to store these gold coins. I'll build bigger bands. I'll have a bigger vault. Open up a bank. Maybe even take it offshore. Ash would love that. Store it offshore. That's about riches. And riches and wisdom, interestingly, are 2 different things. They don't go together. Bigger bands? Not too sure. Next slide, please. I don't know how many of you read Word for Today. It's one of the online scriptural devotional thoughts. UCB had this to say today. And it's not a coincidence. I was just flicking through and I saw the reading. It was about riches, by the way. And they said this: it's a blessing to have the things that money can buy, as long as you don't lose sight of the things that money cannot buy. And some of the things that money cannot buy: health, good health, relationships. Do you want to tell me a few more that money cannot buy? Love, yes. What else can't we buy with money? Family, yes. Housing. Did you say housing? Yes. It could stretch, but maybe sometimes. No. Love, yes. Happiness. Happiness. Life. Peace of mind, yes, and so on. You see, this gold coin is limited. It is limited. And this rich man did not know this. He thought this gold coin was everything. He thought it was everything. But it is limited. And the other thing about this gold coin, or wealth, or wheat, a lot of it, it has a power. It has a power to hold us down, to keep us in a trap. It makes us feel, I am self-sufficient. I'm good. And as a matter of fact, that was exactly what was in this parable. He says, I'm good for a number of years. I am self-sufficient. I've got things stored up, so I'm okay. This gold coin makes you feel, I'm sorted for the next month. I'm sorted for the next year. As a matter of fact, I'm sorted for the next 5 years. This gold coin could be very dangerous, you know. It makes you feel, wow, I'm doing good. As a matter of fact, this rich man said, eat, drink, and be merry. Enjoy life. Enjoy life. You know, after all, tomorrow you die. And there's nothing else after death. When you're dead, you are gone and it's all. And that was how he lived his life. That was how he lived his life. Next slide, please. The question I want to put to you today and the picture that I want to put in your minds that I want you to take away today, is it about bigger bands or open hands? Now there's a big difference. Bigger bands, they store the wealth, they store the wheat. Just keep it. Loads of money, the gold coins, I just need to keep it. And that was why we had that lovely game. That was beautiful, Rahil and Charlie. I don't know. Between them, they come up with that game, by the way. I'm not too good with these games. But they were brilliant. They had the theme. They knew what I was going to be talking about. They said this game would be lovely. And it's true. We want to give the coins to me. It's all about me. It's about bigger bands. It's about making me feel good, making me feel sorted for the next 5 or so years. But what did we do with the 2 other bowls that were here? The one about the neighbor and the one about the stranger. We had to release these coins. We tried to release some coins into Daisy's bowl, but unfortunately there were only 10. And then to Libby's bowl there were about. And then in Renee's bowl to the stranger there were 29. I hope you counted well. By the way, Daphne voted about 3 times. You know some people with votes, as long as they have a ballot, they would use it. 1 man, 1 vote, 1 woman, 1 vote. I won't say anymore. Maybe that's why the other bowl had about, 29. But no, the point is people gave. People were able to release this. And so when we release it, so when we go today, the thought I want to really leave with you is life is not about having bigger bands, yes? It is about open hands. And the most important or the most perhaps precious and most powerful and most well-known verse in the Bible is from John 3, verse. Can anyone say John 3? What am I looking for? What's the verse? 16. Yes, you are so good. For God so loved the world that he did what? He gave. Open hands. He gave. It wasn't about bigger bands. He gave. And because he gave, I am blessed. Because God gave, you are blessed. God gave, so love is about giving. Next slide, I'm coming to the end. Proverbs, by the way, the wise man, the philosopher, he says, one person gives freely and yet gains even more. Another withholds unduly but comes to poverty. A generous person will prosper. Whoever refreshes others will be refreshed. So in giving, I am refreshed. And God gives back to me. There was a little boy who had so many good things in life. And his friends asked him in school, how come you were so blessed? How come you have all these lovely things? And you know what the little boy said? He said, I just keep giving back to God. And guess what? God has a bigger shovel. So when he gives back to me, I get things in abundance. He gives me plenty. When we give to God, we recognize that we're not diminished, we're not restricted, we're not poor. Rather, he gives back to us. And he says, by the way, he loves a cheerful giver. For the adults, by the way, before I come to a close, I want you to check out this book. I have no commission for pushing another book. It's by Richard Foster. The Celebration of Discipline. He says there are three things that are the three greatest temptation, three greatest, if you like, influencers that we need to be mindful of in the world and in a Christian life. Three things that could easily bring us down. Three things he says. Let me tell you his exact words. He says there are no issues that touch us more profoundly or universally. No topics that cause more controversy. No human realities have greater power to bless or to curse. He says no three things have been more sought after or are more in need of a Christian response. What are these three things? Money, sex, and power. Three, he could say, vices. Three strongholds. He writes prolifically. It's a classic. Please get to read that book, The Celebration of Discipline, by Richard Foster. He talks about the effect, the power, the draw, the temptation, all that is locked up in money, sex, and power, and how they have an influence or the tendency to destroy. But as I'm coming to a close, final slide, I think. Two things I want for you to take away. As I thought about this talk today, these two thoughts came to me. To love is to give, and to care is to share. Can I have this side of the house? Please say, to love is to give. And this side of the house, to care is to share. And again this side. And again this side. May the Lord bless us in our giving and in our sharing, that others will be blessed just because we gave and because we care. Bless you.